2010, the number of people with access of electricity has increased by 1.7 billion. In 2011, renewable energy accounted for more than 20% of global power generated.
Ensuring to universal access to affordable electricity by 2030. Means by investing clean energy such as solar, wind turbines, and thermal hydro, and many more.
Therefore, we need to expand and upgrade technology to provide clean and source energy.
Smile and learn.
Renewable energy. We obtain energy from two different sources, renewable energy sources and non-renewable energy sources. Today we're going to learn about renewable energy sources. Renewable energy refers to all those limitless energy sources present in nature. The sun, the wind, the force of water, or the inner heat of the earth are examples of renewable energy sources. These energy sources are present in nature and are naturally replenished. That's why they never run out. These are some of the most well-known renewable energy types. Solar energy comes from the sun and reaches us as light and heat. For example, thanks to these solar panels, we can capture sunlight energy and transform it into thermal energy to heat water in this house. Eolic energy comes from the movement of air or the wind. For example, these windmills transform wind into electric energy. Tidal wave energy comes from the movement of sea waves or when tides change from high to low, and vice versa. Hydraulic energy is produced by the water we store in reservoirs or artificial lakes. Look at this dam! Water falls over from a high spot. Then, it flows through the hydroelectric factory, where the force of the water is transformed into electric energy. Geothermal energy is generated from the heat stored in the earth. This type of energy is used for heating a house or generating electricity, for example. Let's look at some of the main advantages of renewable energies. They are environmentally friendly because they don't emit CO2 or greenhouse effect gases. They are limitless because they are obtained from natural resources that don't run out and replenish naturally. They are safer for our health because they don't generate toxic residues harmful for people. There is no doubt that renewable energies have many advantages, but there are disadvantages as well. Renewable energy resources are not found everywhere in the world. Countries with shorter daylight hours cannot produce as much solar energy as other parts of the world. Obtaining renewable energy can be random or variable because it depends on natural phenomena that we cannot always predict. For example, the amount of rainfall. To reach the world energy objectives and help take care of the environment, it's indispensable to accelerate the transition to renewable energies.
Which country have lack of supply of energy?
What can we do to fix these issues?
How many people are living without energy sources?
Concentration of every poverty is found on
India!
And Nigeria.
About 30% households in India are yet to have access to electricity. If you want to provide electricity to everybody, we have to ensure that our electricity is affordable. India has a vast reservoir of coal. We are probably the third or fourth largest reservoir of coal in the world.
Coal is cheap. Whether you and I like it or not, coal is cheap. You have to think about this from this point of view. If you created the problem in the past, we will create it in the future. We have 700 million households who cook using biomass today. 700 million households. If those households move to coal, you have that much more use of fossil fuel. Then the entire world is fried. If anyone gives you this very cute stuff and tells you, oh, the world's poor should move to solar, and why do they have to make the mistakes that we have made? I hear this all the time from American NGOs. And I'm like, wow, you know, I mean, if it was that easy, I would have really liked the US to move towards solar, but you haven't. Let's put our money where our mouth is.
We have to practice what we preach, absolutely.
I'm sorry to say this. I know you're an American, and please don't take this amiss, but your consumption is going to really put a hole in the planet. And I think that's the conversation we need to have.
Which country is lack of supply of energy? Overwhelming concentration of every property is found in India and Africa. 30% of the world do not have an access of electricity. Access to electricity in power boundaries has begun to accelerate energy.
The United Nations launched its effort to fight energy poverty worldwide, marking the International Year of Sustainable Energy for All. Energy poverty is considered a lack of energy infrastructure and resources. Roughly 1 in 7 people around the world lack access to electricity, almost exclusively in developing countries. Although things are improving, many have said that too little change is happening too slowly. So we wanted to know which countries don't have electricity. Well, it's estimated that anywhere from 1.1 billion to 1.3 billion people live without electric power. To make up for a lack of deliverable energy, nearly 3 billion people around the world use coal or wood fuel for heat and cooking, contributing to deadly pollution. This pollution is thought to be responsible for more than 4 million deaths every year. The overwhelming concentration of energy poverty is found in sub-Saharan Africa and rural India. Over the past few years, India has dramatically improved its power infrastructure, and in 2014, it was the 3rd largest electricity producer in the world. Yet roughly 300 to 400 million people without electricity live in rural Indian states. And even for those who do have power, the energy grid is notoriously unreliable. In 2012, a nationwide blackout affected more than 600 million people. Although the Indian government has launched efforts to provide 24-hour power to the entire country, some have accused politicians of only directing energy to politically important districts. While India has made some progress, sub-Saharan Africa is still struggling. Altogether, Africa has about twice as many people without power as India, roughly 600 million. The country with the least access to electricity in the world is South Sudan, which also has one of the lowest education and literacy rates as well. The World Bank noted that in 2012, only 5% of the country's 11 million person population had electricity.
Why should we save energy? Electricity is generated from natural resources.
Here are some tips to save energy.
1. Adjust light use. An easy tip is remembering to switch off unnecessary lights every time you leave a room. Also consider using fewer light bulbs, with higher wattages combined with reducing the number of bulbs in each room. For example, you can replace 2 to 3 60-watt bulbs by installing 100-watt bulb in a room. Easy to overlook, one of the simplest things you can do to reduce energy use is to simply let the natural light in and avoid turning on electric lights during the day. You'll also find natural light better for your work in home environment. 2. Install energy-efficient light bulbs. Talk about lighting. Another great tip is to swap incandescent lights for LED bulbs. LED light uses between 70 to 80% less energy than regular incandescent bulbs. You'll find these more expensive to purchase at first than regular bulbs, which use more energy, but they will last a lot longer than the regular ones. As a result, over time, the cost balances out, and you can save more energy. LED lights are especially practical for exterior lighting, and some require turned on throughout the night. 3. Switch off energy-draining appliances on standby. We have typically many different electronic appliances in our homes, which are on standby, and some of these use up to 75% of their electricity consumption when switched off. If you take a simple tour of your home, you'll likely find at least several plugged-in items you're not using. Electrical items on standby are TVs, computers, and video game consoles. Many of these appliances draw a small amount of electricity whilst waiting for use. So switch them off when they're not in use to save electricity and conserve energy. To find these electrical appliances on standby, just look for a little light glowing. If you won't be using them for a while, turn them off at the wall to save energy. Even though the electricity they consume might seem small, it all adds up over a longer period of time and on your electric bill. Watch out for especially older appliances that are usually less energy efficient. 4. Install smart power strips. An alternative to unplugging and switching off appliances at the wall is to use smart power strips. These are convenient and a fast way to save electricity and solve the problem with electronics not in use effectively. You can configure the power strip to shut off electricity to appliances when not in use. Some models even save electricity costs by setting timers to turn off the supply while you're at work or asleep. Here is a smart power plug that connects to an app where you can monitor the power consumption and set the timers for turning off the power. Combine with a power strip to get a very effective setup, and forget the power system that saves you money over time. 5. Fill up your washing machine and dishwasher. Your modern washing machine and dryer may be marked energy efficient, but they still consume a lot of electricity with each use. To utilize electricity as much as possible, pull your laundry together and do full loads. The result is you cut down on the number of times you're using the washer every week. Motivate yourself by thinking about how much money you're throwing away with each wash and minimize the number of washes. 6. Wash clothes in cold water. Wash your clothes in warm water only when it's really necessary. This is an easy way to save energy, as you don't need to wash clothes with warm water every time. Maximum temperatures are not required. Washing at 30 degrees Celsius is often as efficient as washing at 40 degrees Celsius. 7. Dry clothes and dishes outside. Another tip to save energy is not using the dryer and instead drying your clothes outside in the sun. If you need to use a dryer, consider using a lower setting, which takes longer but uses less energy. If you're using a dishwasher, ditch the heated drying cycle and wipe with dish towels instead. Another option is to leave the dishwasher door open and allow for some air drying. It's perfectly okay to let dishes air dry with same hygienic result. 8. Upgrade to appliances that are more efficient. When the time comes for replacing your appliances, you should definitely look for new models that provide the best energy efficiency. In the EU, look for AAA energy efficiency, and in the US, Energy Star rated fridges, washing machines, and other appliances. With each new energy efficient appliance you purchase, you'll find your total energy bill is getting lower.
What is our targets?
Our target is to ensure universal access to affordable, reliable, and modern energy services. Increase substantially the share of renewable energy in the global energy.
Promote investment in energy infrastructure and clean energy technology. Expand infrastructure and upgrade technology, buying modern and renewable.
What does energy mean to you? Light, entertainment, surfing the web? It's much more. Energy means education, better health, safety, economic growth. But 1.3 billion people don't have access to electricity. 1 in 5 living in the dark. Where people do have access to energy, finite resources are drained, producing and consuming energy in a way that destroys the environment and contributes to climate change, harming lives everywhere. These are two different challenges, but they have one solution: sustainable energy for all. Energy that is accessible, affordable, cleaner, and more efficient. What does energy mean to you?
Reducing the carbon intensity of electricity is a key objective in our long-term climate goals.
economic growth?
Growth is everywhere. A tree grows from a seed to a plant. And the economy grows too. But how do we measure economic growth? The value of all the products manufactured and sold in a country over the course of 1 year, along with everything that people do and get paid for, all that amounts to the gross domestic product. When people earn more money and then buy more products and services, the economy grows. Politicians also want to see the economy grow. That's why they work toward achieving greater employment, stable prices, and a balance between imported and exported goods. More growth means more money. But for whom? The common belief that greater wealth means greater prosperity for all doesn't reflect reality. It all depends on how the money is distributed. Often when an economy grows very quickly, that distribution is very unequal. But is there a point when an economy has finally matured? The resources that industry requires to grow are limited, and the need for raw materials often does not take nature into account. Since the 1970s, some economists have been warning about the limits of growth. They suggest that quality of life should also factor into the equation, along with material growth. In Bhutan, a country in the Himalayas, that's already the case. Their gross national happiness is measured. In addition to income, it is made up of how healthy people and nature are, as well as the opportunities people have in life and how at ease they feel in society. Economic growth and contentment have the same value. Germany is also discussing a new measure of prosperity, with some politicians calling for the inclusion of social and ecological aspects. Even if we're still searching for a solution, more and more people are starting to understand that the economy can only grow over the long term if it also respects a person's basic means of existence.
Here is what we know.
About 205 million people in today's world are unemployed, about 75 million of which are young men and women. About 2.2 billion world citizens live below the U.S. poverty line of $2 a day. Also, our economy is essential to providing equal opportunities for all races in both men and women, such as security in workplaces and fair incomes.
Here's a target of what we need to do by 2030.
By the year 2030, the UN would like to eradicate human trafficking, modern slavery, too young army recruiting, and all other inhumane forms of child labor. They would also like to create productive employment everywhere and for all people, and make sure all work of the same level is rewarded at the same value.
Here's what we need to do about it.
There are plenty of charities you can donate to and organizations you can support that recognize the true importance of economic growth. You can also volunteer as an intern at your local job site. Here's what the UN strives to do.
The UN would like to eradicate human trafficking, modern slavery. They would like to create productive employment. Make sure all work is the same level. Less rewarded at the same value.